Yesterday, the Dallas Cowboys met for a second time with Brian Schottenheimer, according to the NFL Network. So on Tuesday, they spent about 3.5 hours with him, according to Jane Slater. And then Jane and Tom Pelissero had the follow-up yesterday. Are we going to get the news this morning or today? Bobby, what are you hearing?
I think it's going to be Schottenheimer. That's where I've moved to this point, and I think we probably get it this week. That's just, and again, there's so much about this whole time that we've talked about, where various people you talk to have said when the Schottenheimer stuff started coming out, there were people who were like, yeah, this is real, and this is going to be who it is. And then there were other people who were like, there's no shot, there's no way. We're trying to leverage something, or we're trying to get something out of somebody else, or, oh, we're just interviewing him as offensive coordinator mainly.
No
That's what we're doing here. There was a flip for a couple of people I talked to yesterday who they went from like, this has got to be about offensive coordinator to, well, I think we're probably hiring him as head coach.
Yeah, so, you're not meeting a second time for OC.
And that was the biggest. The second meeting for everybody, I think yesterday was kind of like, oh, okay. All right. That's probably not offensive coordinator. That's probably you're going over install plans and different things that your overall structure of what you plan to do. But again, the other thing you heard a lot, and this is probably not going to make anybody super happy. If they hire Brian Schottenheimer, the one thing you're starting to hear a lot is this is a Dak hire. This is a hire that is based on feedback from Dak Prescott and a lot of players.
I refuse to believe it. They didn't have a second interview yesterday. That wasn't an interview. They just went to lunch. That's it. They just went. They had.
It was a late lunch, and it went pretty long.
Well, what happened is Jerry, they had extra Jason's Deli laying around. They had ordered it for the staff. It was, we're on break, so all the support and cook staff is not in the building, so they had to get something. So they're like, let's see, Jersey Mike's, Jason's Deli, where are we gonna go? Yeah. And they just got too much, and they called him in and said, Shotty, why don't you come on in here and help us finish off this turkey?
You like corned beef?
Yeah. So so I just refuse to believe this whatsoever. I'm convinced the second interview was not about install. It was sell us, please, because we can't believe it ourselves. You have to sell us on this one there, Shotty.
Here's the thing. I'm leaning enough towards Brian Schottenheimer that I've already started rolling through my heads all the different ways that I think Jerry's going to start saying the name Schottenheimer. Shotting him, like however he's going to say it, Schottenheimer. I've already started running through my head. Wait, what way is he going to say his name funny in the interviews next year?
I think a lot of people, including Tolo D, who just shot me the message, is like, all right, like, when's the most Cowboy time to announce it? Common sense. I don't know anything. I got my phone on. I'm waiting for the ultimate green light to say this is done and over with. Common sense would tell you it gets announced today. Common sense would tell you during the show, right after the show. But Jerry sense, many people are like, no, conference championship weekend.
Yeah, it's today. Yeah, he may turn on the TV and see them talk about Aaron Glenn a lot. Be like, oh, wait, hang on a second. Can't have that. But, it's, I hate to do this because, like, I was such a huge fan of his old man. Like, yeah. I loved Marty. Like, Marty,
I feel bad for Brian.
I grew up like as a little kid as a Browns fan. I love those Marty Schottenheimer teams, and I think Marty's criminally underrated. I don't want to shot all over Schottenheimer.
But that's a choppyism because if covering Marty Schottenheimer would have had him as your least favorite coach, you would have absolutely
because of the way he played.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Marty Ball is the antithesis of RJ Choppy.
As an 8-year-old kid, you didn't care about that. You don't know any different. As an 8-year-old kid, back then especially there was no computers, there was no analytics.
Here's what I think is that if this is Brian Schottenheimer who they're going to hire, and I anticipate it'll be roundly criticized by all Cowboys fans, I will say the bar will be set so low that when they actually start hearing Brian Schottenheimer talk during OTAs and stuff, and fans get access to what his thoughts are, he's going to meet expectations or surpass them for a lot of fans.
That's the key. That's the key. Always take a job with zero expectations. It always looks better.
Well, it's not a job with zero expectations.
Well, you have them. When you go there, you have zero expectations.
He's going to win the press conference. As someone told you yesterday, there's a little DQ to him in terms of, but correct me if I'm wrong. this is such a stunning development. I haven't really seen the first fake shows do a ton of segments on this.
I don't believe it.
I haven't seen like Brian Schottenheimer dedicated segments on First Take. Maybe I've missed it, but that's shocking in itself.
I have a theory. About that. They want to milk every second of Dion or anything else to it, and they don't want to kill their absurd over-the-top reaction to it until he's hired. Once he's hired, then they will save all their, what? Are you kidding me? They don't want to blow all of that. They want to set everybody up nationally. Because, look, here's the thing. Nationally, there's a lot of fans who probably aren't keeping up with the Brian Schottenheimer momentum. And so they probably still are thinking, Dion. And so they're like, all right, we keep this low. And then when it's announced Brian Schottenheimer, they get the rug pulled out of them, and we get to have this large overreaction rather than just keeping people posted.
And also, there's other news going on that they can steal hours with.
Yeah.
They don't have to talk about the Cowboys coaches.
Yeah, Ben Johnson got hired.
Big news, Aaron Glenn. That's news.
The only team they love more than the Cowboys is the Jets. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Aaron Glenn today.
So a lot of people are asking, and Chop, I know you have an issue with this or don't understand why. Why are they meeting for a second time? I actually like that they are. I said this the other day. I said this the other week, as a matter of fact. Coaching interviews, you don't have enough time and hours to spend those moments with them that you really need. Something this important for billion-dollar businesses, you're gonna sit down for 3.5 hours and feel like, okay, this is the CEO of my organization. This is the new face of my franchise. So I actually like that they're spending more time with him. That makes sense to me. I think it's a smarter approach. That's just me.
I appreciate that they are, and I'm glad that they are. I just don't. If he's been in the building, the whole thing is him already, right?
Yeah, but they don't know him. But they don't know his plans as a head coach. They know his personality. They know his mannerisms, But now you need to sit down and tell us how this is going to be different from McCarthy, and why have you never been hired anywhere else? Why are you fit for this job? What are your plans, the installs, the this, the that, dealing with the media? Those conversations have not been had with Brian Schottenheimer in the time that he's been here. And yesterday could have also been contract details.
And that's the important thing.
Yesterday could have been the follow-up of, right, now.
And it could have been, are we sure we want to do this? We sure want to do this?
This is a nice $2 million check. This is not an installment. This is the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But yesterday could have been contract negotiation.
Yeah, and I think that's the important point you made there is just how are you going to be different from McCarthy? Brian Schottenheimer has not spent the last 2 years telling the Joneses how much differently he would run things than Mike McCarthy. That's not his job.
Right.
And so there's a lot.
And that'd be a backstab towards his guy, which was Mike.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot that Brian Schottenheimer would share with them that he would do differently. I don't think Brian Schottenheimer would run things exactly the way that Mike McCarthy did.
The team doesn't want to do a whole lot of things differently. They wanted Mike back. You know what I mean?
I'm still not convinced. I still swear they were trying to get him to quit.
Well, it's still going to be Dak friendly.
Yes. Yeah. And look, you're paying him $60 million. That makes sense.
So I asked yesterday, give me some other coaching hires that would be as stunning as this one in the history of sports. We can't just take a name that's surprising. You got to take the job. This is the Dallas Cowboys trying to upgrade from Mike McCarthy, and we're probably going to get Brian Schottenheimer. So the Tolos were starting to throw out names. Y'all just stop it down when you want. Jeff Saturday, I thought, was a really good one.
It was just interim, though.
I don't even count that one.
Did we? We didn't know it was interim. If he did a nice job, it was interim.
He could have interviewed, but it was made clear he's not the permanent head coach when he came in.
All right, a lot of people said Barry Switzer.
Switzer was shocking, but it was a different shocking. That was huge, though. Parcells was shocking. Parcells and Switzer were big.
Well,
the thing with Switzer
keep it in the spirit of the discussion as to the underwhelming stun.
David Culley is the name that comes to mind for me in Houston.
Chan Gailey was another one thrown on here.
Yeah. Gailey was a top offensive coordinator at the time. He was considered one of the sharper offensive coordinators in football.
I don't think Switzer was a letdown hire. I don't think anybody thought of that
when it was in the moment.
Yeah, we're talking about one of the most accomplished college coaches in history and a friend of the owner. If you were shocked by that, you were just not.
I mean, it
paying
was
attention.
shocking in the sense that Switzer had been out of football, and like nobody was talking
Yeah.
about Switzer coaching again, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh.
Tolo Mike with a nice list. David Culley, who you mentioned, Antonio Pierce, Jim Zorn. Yes.
Zorn was
Yeah.
surprising.
Even though, the Redskins were down and out for a long time. Ray Hanley, Giants, Rich Kotite, Jets, David Shula, Cincinnati. Brandon says J.J. Redick, Mike D'Antoni over Phil Jackson. Let's see. Lane Kiffin, Tim Floyd.
It was pretty surprising when
Tim
Gruden left
Floyd.
the booth after a decade and went back to the Raiders. That one surprised people.
But that's a big name. I'm talking like an underwhelming shock. Jim Tomsula.
Tom Cable, when he got hired by the Raiders, he had only been an offensive line coach at the
Right.
NFL. That was it.
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge a big one. That's a big one.
But like but the difference is the Giants, they were down and out, and the Cowboys like have an 11-12 win team.
He replaced Shermer, right?
Joe
Judge.
Judge. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think
maybe
so.
Or McAdoo or Shermer. I can't
one
remember.
of the two.
Ben McAdoo is listed on here as well. But this is an all-time shocker.
It was a shocker. If you want a shocker because all these names we just threw out did not necessarily go well. If you want a name that he was a prominent name, but it shocked people and they were like, you can't just be a head coach from that. A lot of people were shocked when John Harbaugh got hired because it was just
Yes.
like, you were a special teams coordinator. What are you
Yes.
prepared to do? And John Harbaugh ended up being a really good coach for Baltimore.
877-881-1053 is the way to hit us up on the Franklin Franco Injury Attorney text line. My wish for today, my wish is that all of a sudden Deion Sanders comes out of the blue or John Gruden. But if the Brian Schottenheimer news breaks during this program, it will just be all phones. We will not have a segment without phone calls because I have to channel the energy and the sports depression from the Metroplex and have you just completely unleash on the phone lines. It'll be like Jake Reitman will think he's back home in Detroit radio where they just do calls every single second of every single day. So that's my hope for today. Do not want this to happen at 9:30 or 9:40 in KMC to get all that interaction.
Yeah, we always get screwed on the big breaking news, I feel like. It always ends up being like 10:04, right when KNC gets on the air. And it's like, this is BS. We never get any of this.
Something else really, really good from Brian Broaddus, and screw you, Chiafalo and Eric. Your anger, Zach is so angry
Zach
right
and
now.
Eric?
What I say,
Chiafalo and
Eric.
Zach and Eric, nose, butts, bleeds, whatever you are. Zach is
Sometimes
so...
the butt does bleed.
We should have named that show The Hemorrhoids.
The hemorrhoid, yeah. Sometimes it bleeds.
Zach is so angry, he couldn't even let Broaddus get through his really good info where he said, this whole Jason Witten waiting thing, Broaddus was told it's being overblown. We need to settle down on that. We're taking that way too far. And it did feel like a little bit of a reach, and we're just totally, completely assuming, well, Jason Witten's the next head coach here in 3 years. Broaddus was told to really pump the brakes. He couldn't get through the rest of his point because the rest of the guys in the room automatically jumped him, but I thought that was really good new and really good info from Broaddus. Jason Witten, coach and waiting, just a second. Not that he won't be on staff, but the whole coach and waiting thing, chill.
I was about to say, I did not hear it, and it sounds like the rest of G-Bag didn't hear it either because Brian couldn't get through his point. So
Zach was trying to go viral again.
But the thought I have when I hear that is like, okay, but Brian's not discounting that he'll be on staff probably, right? Because I think that is almost a certain, there is definite buzz. Like, I think they have 100% back channel discussions with him about being on staff. And so I think that is absolutely going to happen.